No day goes by without some reference in the media to around extremism and radicalisation. It's been a particular subject over a focus over the course of the last 12 months. From a school's perspective, one of the landmarks was the introduction of the Counterterrorism and Security Act in 2015, which was first published in March and came into force during May. The government actually issued some really helpful statutory guidance to accompany the Act, which you'll be able to find online, and that clearly articulates what the obligations are for a range of statutory agencies, but in particularly from this regard with respect to schools. And so those obligations, the first one here is around risk assessment. Schools are expected to assess the risk of your children being drawn into radicalisation or potentially being exposed to extremist ideologies online. Your policies are expected to reflect that too. This area also covers your potential use of external speakers as well. The second one here is around working in partnership. So schools, particularly in England, are expected to work with your local Safeguarding Children's Board and the policies, and integrating the policies, their procedures within your policies too. The third one here is around staff training. We find that from an online safety perspective, this being a particularly weak area too, and so this needs some special perhaps attention. All staff are expected to ensure that they can recognise and then intervene with signs of radicalisation. What we would advocate in this regard is to use the Home Office's WRAP programme. That's WRAP. So the workshop to raise awareness of prevent, and that includes how to recognise the signs of radicalisation and what sorts of things to do. So that's what we would actually recommend in this regard. The penultimate one is around IT policies. You will all have policies around use of IT, but in this regard you're meant to include aspects of extremism and radicalisation, so robust IT policies. I would particularly suggest in this respect is it covers filtering. And so a question to ask your filtering provider is what measures do you take as a provider to help us with filtering out potentially extremist content online. The final aspect that the Prevent statutory guidance covers is monitoring and enforcement. And from this regard, you should expect to be challenged by school inspectorates, specifically Ofsted, clearly from an English school perspective. They will be asking questions, they will have expectations around how you as a school will manage and respond, integrated with policies, awareness of staff, all these kind of things that we've already talked about. Indeed, it's actually recognised in the new statutory common assessment frameworks that will come into force in September 2015. Just want to highlight this point as well, because we think this is a really important one. So it's one of reporting. So if you do have a recognised, or you do have an incident reported to you, you have concerns, what do you do? And so I'd encourage you to have a think about that. What would we do if we suspected one of our children, we have concerns about one of our children? And so one of the things that you have to do is to make sure you know what the local guidance is in terms of your Safeguarding Children's Board. If you have any particular questions, one of the things that the Department for Education has actually made available is a helpline to support teachers. You can see the phone number and the email address. You can see the email address there. So I would encourage you to use that if you do have any particular concerns. There we have it.
That's good.
Stumbled a couple of occasions.
You have to say local safeguarding children's board.
Children's Safeguarding Local Board.
Local safe board, guard safe. But that's fine. I had to hurry you a little bit because I didn't want to lose what you've done so far, because it was good. It's good, it's lovely, it flowed really nicely. It doesn't have to be perfect, Dave.